Hi, everybody. Today I'm going to be diving deep into my own case study and we'll give you a behind the scenes look of how I healed my chronic acne for good after stopping birth control. And this includes functional labs I run, supplements I took, foods I focused on, and much more. So we're going to get pretty sciencey today. And as a reminder, this is my case study and these are my labs. I'm going to show you exactly what those looked like. And they are not yours. So don't take exactly what I did expecting it to have the same results for your skin. This is where getting your own customized lab work and personalized plan is so valuable. And this is for informational purposes only. It's not meant to be medical advice at all. So this just wanted to give those two little caveats. But before we dive in, I also wanted to encourage you, if you haven't listened to the episode before this, so episode 4, definitely go back and listen to that because I talk all about what didn't work for me and how I spent over $10,000 in 4 years of my life trying to fix acne without success, trying to fix my acne without success. So that's really helpful just to, give you an idea of everything that I tried, because I'm sure a lot of you listening can relate to this, whether you have already stopped birth control and you're struggling with acne, you are not on birth control, that's not a part of your history and you're just struggling with acne, or whether you're looking to stop birth control and you're terrified of having breakouts. This episode is perfect for you, this episode and next episode, because it's going to give you exactly the framework that I use with my clients to help them naturally clear their acne, identify the underlying balances that are leading to their acne to begin with. Because a big misconception about acne is that acne is the problem itself. That's why a lot of times we spend, and doctors recommend, focusing specifically on the topical routine, right? So facials, eating healthy, making sure that we are drinking enough water, chemical peels, spironolactone, tretinoin, birth control. But those things don't get to the underlying root of what's causing your acne to begin with. So I always tell people that, it was a blessing and a curse to have acne for most of my life. But once I figured out exactly what it was telling me, it was really a sign my body was giving me that something deeper was going on that I just didn't realize I had to look into or didn't realize how to listen to. So for some people, they struggle with digestive issues, and that's their signal that their body is giving them. For some people, it's, there could be a bunch of different things that go into it, but for me, it shows up on my face. And so I would encourage you to, take in all this information. It might be a lot of different stuff than you're used to hearing when it comes to acne, but I will share, from my experience as someone, again, who struggled with acne for most of my life and was basically just told, well, that's normal, it's genetic, there's really nothing you can do about it, just go back on birth control, that there is another option, and it's uncovering those hidden imbalances, which is what we'll go through today. So go back to that episode and listen to that if you haven't yet. But just as a brief recap, if you haven't listened to that, just here's a rapid fire list of what I tried to fix my acne that didn't work. So I mentioned some of these already, but monthly facials, expensive chemical peels, red light therapy, microneedling, spironolactone, hormone testing, birth control, elimination diet. So there was a period, and I speak more to this, but peanuts, low sugar, gluten-free, dairy-free, alcohol-free, no caffeine. Basically, I couldn't eat hardly anything. I was on a very, very restrictive diet for a period because I was desperate and it actually made my acne worse, which makes sense with the context we're going to be talking about today. I also tried a bunch of random supplements, including supplements to fix my hormones and my gut, but that was without any formal testing. So this is where I'm a huge advocate of testing versus guessing to identify what your imbalances are in your body. And I also tried antibiotics and tretinoin. So pretty much everything under the sun I tried, and none of it worked. It wasn't until I discovered that there was a much deeper root cause, or for my case and most of my clients with acne, root causes that were contributing to their acne. So when I discovered that through functional testing, that's what really was the game changer in fixing my skin. So I'm excited to dig into that with you today. I'm going to break this up into 2 different episodes. So today we're going to be talking about minerals, specifically vitamins and minerals. And then next week, we're going to be talking about gut and liver and maybe some other stuff, but those are going to be the two main focuses for next week because acne is a multifaceted approach. So lots goes into treating acne, which is why it's pretty complex and really important to work with an acne trained provider like myself. And I have that added layer of looking at acne from the lens of stopping birth control and the impact that birth control has on your body. And a lot of my clients, including myself, were put on birth control for, maybe it was to help with their acne. And I just want to put this out there now too. Birth control isn't a root cause solution for fixing your acne. It's just masking the problem. And because of the underlying mechanisms of how birth control works, it actually can make your acne worse, especially when you stop birth control. So that's a huge part of my practice with clients is figuring out what's causing your acne to begin with and how do we balance that out and reverse that negative damage. And then how do we also help heal some of those imbalances that birth control caused on your body that could be making it worse. Let's start with a little background on vitamins and minerals, since that's what we're going to be focusing on today. So before we dive into the tests, which by the way, we're going to be getting a little sciencey today. Hopefully that's cool with all of you guys. And this might be a good one to go back to and look and watch on YouTube. I do have a YouTube page. So we're going to be showing these tests as I'm talking about them. So if you're a visual person or you want to see what these tests look like, I would encourage you to check that out. But as a background, vitamins and minerals. So they are spark plugs that all of our cells need to work properly. Your metabolism, your hormones, your skin, your gut, everything needs vitamins and minerals. And birth control depletes a lot of vitamins and minerals, including vitamins A, B, C, and E, and minerals magnesium, selenium, and zinc. Birth control also has a kind of like secondary effect on vitamins and minerals based on its impact on the gut. So I'll dive more deep into this in next episode, but birth control, basically it can negatively impact the gut so that you're not absorbing the nutrients that you get from food and from supplements. And that was a huge factor for me. And I find that in a lot of my clients as well, where maybe they were intaking vitamins and minerals, but they weren't digesting and absorbing them because there was inflammation in the gut, there was maldigestion, low stomach acid. So those are some secondary effects that birth control can have that can negatively impact nutritive status. That being said, the number one test I run on all of my clients is called a hair tissue mineral analysis, HTMA for short. An HTMA test is a hair sample. And the reason that I like to look at minerals in the hair is because it shows the past 3 months of your minerals versus your blood labs are just going to show that moment in time. And blood labs are just going to show what's happening inside the cell your blood labs are just going to show what's happening outside the cell versus your HTMA, your hair, is going to show what's happening inside the cell. So it's just a much more holistic, well-rounded view of your mineral status. It also shows if there are any toxic elements, so like heavy metals and what cellularly certain body systems are looking at, which we'll look at with my personal results here. So looking at my hair tissue mineral analysis, the first thing I want to focus on is metabolic type. So this is at the top right of the page. I'm going to have to be like visual with how I'm describing this or verbal with how I'm visually describing this. So the top right of the page has metabolic type. And there's two different types of metabolic types. There's fast and there's slow. Fast is a fight or flight, so actively stress. So as you can see, I'm a fast 2. There are different subtypes, fast 1, 2, 3, 4, slow 1, 2, 3, 4. There's no good or bad. It's not better to be fast. It's not better to be slow. This is just giving us information. But you do want to be closer to a 1 because a fast and a slow 1 is indicating you're more in balance. Your body is more in balance. So you can see I was a fast 2, and this is indicating I'm in an actively stressed state. So my body was in a sympathetic state, fight or flight very often, and I was a 2. So I was getting to that more dysregulated portion. This is a really powerful test because, and I have probably mentioned this before, maybe not on the podcast, but on Instagram, that I'm a very type A personality. I'm very driven, I'm very motivated. It's hard for me to relax. And this is seen in society and by me up until this point as a very good thing. And it's not black or white of like, this is all good, this is all bad. But this was translating to me as like, I never thought that I was stressed. I just thought I was, you know, like just high functioning. And I thought that was fine. But then it would get to the point where I would just be, maxed out. My heart rate would start beating faster. Like I started getting overheated. I would have difficulty sleeping. It wasn't up until that point until I recognized that I was stressed. And that's a problem. So this test was really eye opening for me because it did show me that I actually am stressed and I'm functioning in a stress state. So that was really a big key takeaway from me. And I will say that most of my clients are similar to me in that fact that they're go-getting women, they're entrepreneurs, they're women who are very driven, type A. And I love working with those people because this can be such a cool way to look at this test and really get introspective and see, okay, like I actually need to slow down for my health. I need to back off. I need to rest more. I need to take time away from work or, set healthy boundaries for myself. So that's what this fast metabolic type is showing me. It also is showing me that I'm burning through minerals very quickly. So that's a good, something good to look at in terms of how much minerals I need to be adding into my diet, what I need to be supplementing with, because stress is a huge mineral depleter. So then going down to this section where we're in this purple nutritional element section, this is your overall mineral status. So you want to optimally be within this white section. So as you can see, my nutrients are pretty low across the board, but interestingly, my sodium is really high. And this doesn't mean that I was consuming too much sodium. In fact, quite the opposite. This is most likely showing that I was burning through it or my body was retaining it because my adrenals were pretty much like they were firing. They were really overtaxed because I was in an active state of stress. I was also really low in potassium. And potassium is really, really important for thyroid health. It's really important for skin health. It's an electrolyte. So I have a very imbalanced ratio of sodium and potassium. And fun fact, with high blood pressure, a lot of times it's not that someone needs to reduce or eliminate sodium. It's that they actually need to work on potassium intake. So that's a huge misconception I see with a lot of people who have been told they have high blood pressure. First and foremost, we need to be working on stress. Doctors usually don't talk about that. Secondly, we need to be working on potassium. So potassium-rich foods are something that I heavily focus on to help heal my acne, as well as my mineral status as a whole. And as I mentioned, a big piece of this picture was I wasn't digesting and absorbing nutrients from my food very well. That's a different piece of the puzzle. We'll chat more about that next week, but there are some indicators that this HTMA test can give us that show I have low stomach acid, including low potassium, high sodium, and low phosphorus. So that's the cool thing about this test too, is that it can give you insights not only into just your mineral status, but other systems in the body and other things that might be happening in your liver, in your gut, with your adrenal glands, all that jazz. The next thing I want to move on to is this pink section to the right. This is your toxic element section. And this looks pretty good. Again, you want to be within the white section, except my uranium was pretty high. And with a fast metabolic type, this is interesting because it could mean one of two things. It could mean that I have an active exposure to uranium, and this is usually in water, specifically well water, which we do have well water. Or it could be that it's from a past exposure, and because my body is burning through things pretty quickly, it's basically detoxifying that. So one thing I did was test our water for uranium specifically, and we didn't have any trace amounts of uranium, which is hopefully good. So when I redo this test, which this is a test that I do on myself once a year, this is something I'm going to look at next time just to see, is this still present? Do I need to dig deeper into what's causing this? Or is this something that hopefully it goes lower and my body was actively detoxifying it? But if you have any levels of toxic metals, that is a stressor on the body and that can cause inflammation. So we really want to look at stress management as a whole, not just mentally, but physically. So having these high toxic metals was a player as well. So adding a specific binder in to my supplement routine for 2 months was also something that I implemented to detoxify this uranium, bind it, and get it out of my system. All right, moving on to significant ratios. This is my favorite part of the test because this is showing us how these minerals are giving us insight into different body systems. So each one of these correlates to a different body system. I'm going to go through a couple of these and explain why I need more data for some of the other ones. The first one is calcium and phosphorus. So this is your nervous system ratio. This is low. We want to be within this white space for optimal. This is what dictates and what defines your metabolic type. So as we mentioned, I'm a fast metabolic type. That means that I am in fight or flight. So this is confirming that I'm in fight or flight sympathetic state. So really focusing on stress management, rest, those types of things are really important. The next one is sodium potassium. This is your vitality of the cell. This was sky high. This is meaning that I was very, very stressed. The next one is calcium and potassium. This is your thyroid function. So how is your thyroid functioning on a cellular level? And this is not a diagnostic test. A high level is showing that on a cellular level, my thyroid was functioning suboptimally. It was slower. Potassium is huge, as I mentioned, for thyroid health. So that's another reason I really focused on potassium-rich foods. This is showing my thyroid was slower, and so I needed to really focus on that. Stress management is also big for thyroid. Your thyroid is basically a metabolic marker for you. So if you have a slower metabolism, a slow thyroid, you're likely going to have a slower metabolic rate. And so really fixing, okay, well, what's causing that slower thyroid? A lot of times it's under eating, over exercising, stress, lack of nutrients, specifically potassium. All of those things are factors when we're looking at thyroid health. Zinc and copper, I like to look at additional blood labs for this. The hair tissue mineral analysis just doesn't give us the full picture. So I like to look at this with blood labs. So I'm going to skip that one. Sodium and magnesium, this is your adrenal ratio. So mine was also sky high. This is showing that I have hyperactive adrenals. Focusing on consuming enough sodium and magnesium is going to be really important here, as well as stress management. My calcium magnesium ratio was optimal. This is just for context though. This is your blood sugar ratio. So if it was trending lower, so that would indicate if it was lower, a tendency for higher blood sugar. If it was higher, it would be a tendency for lower blood sugar. So I look at this with a lot of my clients with acne, without acne, because blood sugar balance is super, super important. And a lot of women are just not fueling themselves properly. They're not eating enough throughout the day. They're going long periods of time without eating. They're just not prioritizing that. And so that is a big thing that we look at in our work together with my VIP one-on-one clients, and even in my birth control reset clients too. I've now added a section where I ask them to give me a day of intake of food, as well as what their relationship is like with food and with exercise, to see if there's any disordered eating tendencies happening. And then copper and iron. This is another one where I like to look at the whole picture with functional blood labs as well. So I'm going to skip that one too. This is where, this test is great, and I love doing this with other labs just to get a holistic viewpoint. So that's the HTMA. So really my takeaways from the HTMA were that I needed to really focus on prioritizing stress management. It confirmed that I am in fact stressed, even if I didn't feel like it. I started implementing multiple mineral mocktails per day with a big focus on potassiums. I drink so much coconut water. And now it's funny when if I don't have it in the morning, which is when I usually have some of it, then I start craving it. And I think that's pretty cool that my body is showing me, hey girl, you need some more potassium, and your body is able to acclimate and adapt and give you more of those intuitive signs of what you need. Focusing on optimizing stomach acid. So for me, this was adding digestive bitters, and this was really focusing on stress management too, because if you're stressed, that can inhibit stomach acid production, and really working on food hygiene. So eating, not while I'm working as much as possible, really chewing my food, a couple deep breaths before eating. Those are all, they sound so small, but they're so, so helpful. And finally, incorporating some more potassium-rich foods, like dried apricots. I mentioned the coconut water, bananas, sweet potatoes, regular potatoes. Most potassium-rich foods are carb-based. And so if we think a lot about, the diet culture, we are a lot of times subjected to low carb, keto, don't eat, starchy vegetables or fruit. They have too much sugar. But those are really beneficial for potassium, which again is really beneficial for acne. And the other thing I'll say too about potassium is that spironolactone, it negatively impacts potassium. It is something that a lot of women on acne, especially with chronic acne, have been on, including myself. And so I have no doubt that that is one of the reasons why my potassium levels were so low. The next mineral I want to talk about is iodine. So iodine, the HTMA test that we just went through doesn't directly measure iodine, although iodine is a really important mineral for hormones, for skin, for your thyroid. But there are certain things that the HTMA can give me some signals or some, key points that can tip me off that maybe someone does have low iodine. So that's one thing if someone does the birth control reset, which that is more of my mini package that just comes with the HTMA and then, follow-up protocol. It doesn't include iodine testing, but I am oftentimes able to see, hey, iodine might be something down the road that would be beneficial to test depending on their symptoms and their lab values in their HTMA. So I do oftentimes recommend additional testing for people depending on what their goals are and if they decide they want to upgrade to do that later on. But iodine testing is something, it's a separate test that you can do where it's a urine test. So basically you take an iodine tablet and then you measure for the next 24 hours how much iodine is excreted in your urine. And the reason iodine is one of the tests that I have started implementing, which I do not see hardly any other clinician talking about iodine, and it's so key for skin health. It's an antimicrobial and anti-inflammatory, so meaning it helps kill bacteria on the skin and reduces inflammation. It helps maintain skin hydration and elasticity, so thinking of like that that glowy, dewy skin complexion that you're looking for. It helps with like preventing wrinkles and anti-aging. And like I said, it's really important for hormone balance in general, including thyroid health, which your thyroid is a hormone. The other thing with iodine too is we have a lot of competitors with iodine. So iodine is, if you're thinking about the periodic table, getting sciencey here and kind of nerdy, it's what's called a halogen. And there are other halogens that compete. So fluoride and bromide are also halogens, and fluoride is in our water. If you drink city water, you most likely have fluoridated water. Bromide is in lots of baked goods and flour. So I would encourage you, especially if you struggle with acne, to buy a non-brominated flour and to test your water and get a filter that filters out fluoride. That's like a really good first step or first good couple of steps. And the other thing you can do is buy non-fluoridated toothpaste. So when we have too many competitors with iodine via bromide and fluoride, that can be negative for our skin because of iodine's beneficial effects. And a lot of times women, specifically I see who have low iodine, really struggle with acne around their chin, their jaw, and their lips. So I know this was very much the case for me. I would get basically all of my acne was around that area. And I would get really, really painful, cystic, inflamed ones, and would even get them like right on my lips or like right on the corners of my lips. And they were so, so painful. And everywhere I went, people were fascinated by, they're like, I don't know why you're getting acne there. That's so interesting. It wasn't my lip balm. It wasn't my makeup. It wasn't any of that. I had gone through all of that stuff of making sure all my products were non-comedogenic and clean and all of that. And the fascinating thing too is that fluoride is stored in your teeth. So this makes sense because it's causing that concentrated fluoride is competing with iodine, which is a big reason why women experience those breakouts right around there. So that's a big sign to me that low iodine might be a factor with acne. So with the iodine, like I said, it's a urine test and it's measuring how much iodine you excrete in a 24-hour period. And with the percent excretion, you want to be above 90%. So as you can see with mine, I was 50.2%. So I was almost half of the amount that I should have been. So I was very deficient in iodine. My body was just like sucking it up when I took that iodine tablet. So what you do about this is there's a specific iodine protocol. Do not, I repeat, do not just supplement with iodine if you have acne patterns like I just described, if you think you might be low in iodine. That is a recipe for disaster, and you're going to make your acne worse. You're going to feel awful. Do not do that. Instead, it's really important to work with a iodine trained clinician like myself to first and foremost look at the whole picture. And secondly, to if you are confirmed to be low in iodine, there's a specific 2-month strategy around like basically getting your body levels of iodine back up. And that includes, you have to detoxify your body of competing halogens. So you have to brush those off of the cells so that iodine can get into the cells and actually do its job. And you have to have companion nutrients, so vitamin C, magnesium, selenium. There's so much that goes into it before you can even start dosing with iodine. And then once you actually start dosing, you want to do it really slow and steady because some people can have reactions from it. And some people, it just takes their body longer to adjust to it. And especially because of its impacts on the thyroid, it's a really healing mineral. It's supportive of thyroid health. And we want to just be really cautious. I'm monitoring thyroid levels as I'm helping someone incorporate iodine just to make for sure that we're on the right track and it's not overwhelming their body. So iodine is a miracle mineral for hormones and for the skin, for the thyroid. And we want to make for sure that we are doing it right to have those beneficial effects. And then the last thing I want to focus on here is vitamin A. So vitamin A, we talked about minerals. Now we're going to shift gears. There are tons of other vitamins I could talk about in terms of acne, but I really wanted to focus on one, which is vitamin A. Vitamin A, along with vitamins C and E, which birth control also depletes, are all antioxidants. And there's a study that shows people who suffer with acne are 33% lower in vitamin A compared to those without acne. And vitamin A helps with hormone signaling and it also speeds up healing. So if you're thinking about like post-acne scarring or pigmentation, vitamin A really helps with speeding up that healing and reversing that pigmentation, which is really cool. I like to see vitamin A levels, and this is in the blood, I like to see them above 65. And as you can see, my levels were about a third of that. So I was at 26.1, very, very deficient in vitamin A. And one thing I haven't highlighted yet, because most doctors will not test minerals and they won't test iodine. They might do some blood labs with minerals and vitamins, but as I mentioned, I like to use the hair and the urine to test iodine and other minerals because it's just much more of a better indication of overall mineral status. And with vitamin A, the reference interval for this, so what is considered okay or normal, is 18.9 to 57.3. So conventional medicine is looking at this and being like, oh, like your vitamin A is fine. And this is the case with most of my clients. They have, by the time they get to me, they've had tons of labs drawn and they've been told like your lab levels look normal, but they still feel bad or they are still having skin issues like acne and they feel at a loss of what exactly to do. So this is, again, why I'm a really big proponent of testing versus guessing and having the right tests and looking at them with the optimal view of what's optimal for women's health versus what's normal. Conventional medicine is looking at what's normal between men and women, and they're not really flagging things as bad until it's like a disease state, versus I'm looking at, what's optimal for health for women. So that's a big difference. So I'm critically looking at labs in a much different view. So my vitamin A was low. So how I fixed this was really focusing on more foods that are rich in vitamin A. This is going to be foods that you probably are not consuming a lot of: beef liver, organ meats, egg yolks, dairy. So a lot of people, when they have acne, they're told not to eat dairy. And then I also supplemented with cod liver oil and beef liver. Those are really rich sources of vitamin A that are really nutrient dense and provide a lot of other benefits as well. So I'm very food first in all of these different recommendations. So if we can do a food versus a supplement, that's what I'll do. And I will be candid and say that I was on quite a bit of supplements because when I first started this journey after getting my labs done, because I was so deficient. And once I corrected those deficiencies, I was able to wean off of those and just have a couple that I'm on currently that are just like part of my regular routine. But I will always ask clients, how fast do you want to go? How heavy with supplements do you want to go? And then we'll adjust accordingly. Because some people are like, let's go all in. Like me, I was ready to heal my acne. I was ready to be done with it. I wanted to do that in the quickest way possible. Other people are like, I hate pills. I don't want to do that. So I always check in with people, but I wanted to go pretty aggressively with mine. And that is a wrap on all of the things, minerals and vitamins. So really, it's not about eliminating food. It's truly what foods can we add to heal your acne from the inside out, and what specific minerals and vitamins are you low in, are you deficient in, that are root causes or one of the pieces to the puzzle of your acne. I really hope that this was helpful in giving you behind the scenes look of these two root causes that I identified with my acne healing journey and how I targeted them. And if you are interested in getting your own lab work done, there are two ways to work with me. There is the birth control reset that I mentioned, which is my mini package, which is where you get just the hair tissue mineral analysis and initial protocol, as well as customized food, supplements, and lifestyle modifications based on that one test. That is a really great starting point. If you are someone who you want to dig deeper and you want some one-on-one support, you want all the labs we went through today, including iodine and the blood work and some other labs that I'll talk about in the next episode, then VIP one-on-one coaching is the best route for you. That's where we run all the labs. You get a deep dive assessment, and then you get one-on-one sessions with me for about 5 months. Like I said, next week, we're going to be diving into how I healed my gut and my liver to support acne healing. So make sure you stay tuned for that one. And I want to end, as I always do, with how I am nourishing myself right now. And this is a fun one. I actually, it was about a month ago, I purchased an at-home sauna, and it's one where it's like a solo sauna where you lay down in it. Jared makes fun of it and says it looks like a coffin. But I actually like it better than a traditional sauna because you lay down and it's much more comfortable. I find that when I'm in a regular like box sauna, I feel like my back always hurts afterward, and I'm like crouching and it's just not super comfy. So I had my doubts about this one, but I really like it. And it also heats up a lot quicker. So I get comfy cozy and listen to a podcast while I'm in there. And a sauna, it's infrared. So I use a brand called Sunlighten, the Solo Sauna, and I'll put a link in the show notes too. If you're interested in that, I have a discount code where I think you can get $200 off, which is amazing. And sauna is a really great thing for naturally supporting detoxification, gut support, blood flow, better sleep. It's just like a really helpful tool. And I really hate being cold. And so that was one of my drivers, including, in addition to all the benefits that I just stated, is that it's really cold here. And I wanted to be warm and to sweat, and just decided it was time to invest in myself in that way. So I ended up purchasing that, and I've been using it at least 2 to 3 times a week, and I absolutely love it. So this is my encouragement to you, that even if something seems expensive, just kind of think about it in the long-term game of, if I purchase this sauna and I use it a couple of times a week and I really benefit from it and it makes me feel good, that's totally worth investing in my health, in myself. So that's ultimately what I went back and forth for a really long time, whether I wanted to make that purchase or not, because it was a big purchase. And I'm really, really glad that I did. And I decided to do that for myself. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. And if you could take a second to like this episode, subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already. And I would love, love, love if you could write a quick review. It seriously means so much to me, and it really helps more women find the podcast. And I know this information is so needed. So if you can take the time to do that, I would really appreciate it. And until next time, I hope you stay nourished. Thanks so much.